The Memphis night shimmered with a humid heat, the air thick with the promise of a coming storm. The sky was a canvas of dark clouds swirling ominously, as if nature itself was mirroring the turmoil within the king of rock and roll. Inside Graceland, Elvis Presley, the undisputed king of rock and roll, felt a different kind of storm brewing within him. The walls of his grand estate, adorned with memories of his meteoric rise, now seemed to close in on him. He was restless, suffocating under the weight of his own fame. The adoration of millions, once a source of joy, had become a heavy burden. His opulent mansion, usually a sanctuary, now felt like a gilded cage. The luxurious rooms, filled with treasures and accolades, echoed with a hollow emptiness. He yearned for freedom, for the simple joys that seemed forever out of reach. The laughter of friends, the thrill of anonymity, the peace of a quiet life. These were the things he longed for. And so, on that sweltering summer night, Elvis made a decision. It was a decision born out of desperation and a deep-seated need to reclaim his life. He would slip away, unnoticed, and disappear into the heart of America. The thought of escaping the relentless spotlight filled him with a sense of daring he hadn't felt in years. His escape had an air of playful rebellion. It was a chance to defy the expectations that had been placed upon him, to break free from the persona that had come to define him. He donned a pair of sunglasses, a simple yet effective disguise, pulled a beat-up baseball cap low over his brow, further obscuring his famous features, and chuckled, imagining the surprise of his security team. They were used to guarding a superstar, not a man on a quest for freedom. They wouldn't find him tonight. Tonight, the king would slip through their fingers like a ghost. Tonight, Elvis Presley was not the king. He was simply a man, craving a taste of the life he left behind. A life where he could walk the streets unnoticed, where he could be just another face in the crowd. He was simply a man, craving a taste of the life he left behind, the simplicity of being unknown, the freedom to make mistakes without the world watching. With that, he slipped out a side door, his heart pounding with a thrill he hadn't felt in years. The night air was thick and warm, wrapping around him like a cloak of anonymity. The Cadillac, a vintage beauty past its prime, awaited him. It was a symbol of a bygone era, a time when life was simpler and dreams were within reach. It was the perfect disguise, a relic from a simpler time. The car's worn leather seats and familiar scent brought back memories of carefree days and endless possibilities. Elvis slid behind the wheel, the engine roaring to life like a lion awakened. The sound was a symphony of freedom, a promise of the open road ahead. As he pulled away from Graceland, the city lights blurring in his rearview mirror, he felt a sense of liberation. The mansion, the fame, the expectations, they all faded into the background. Elvis Presley felt truly alive for the first time in a long time. The road stretched out before him, a path to rediscovery and a chance to reclaim his true self. The king had escaped, if only for a night, and in that moment, he was free. Fame, for Elvis, had been a double-edged sword. It was a blessing and a curse, a dream and a nightmare intertwined. It brought him adoration, wealth, and a level of influence most could only dream of. The roar of the crowd, the flashing lights, the endless applause. These were the rewards of his talent and hard work. Yet, it had also become a prison of its own making. The fame that elevated him to legendary status also confined him, creating invisible bars around his life. He was constantly surrounded by people, managers, bodyguards, fans, all clamoring for a piece of him. The constant attention was suffocating, leaving him little room to breathe or be himself. Privacy was a luxury he could no longer afford. Every moment of solitude was a rare and precious gift, often interrupted by the demands of his career and the expectations of those around him. Every move he made was scrutinized, every word amplified. The media frenzy followed him everywhere, turning his life into a public spectacle. The spontaneity that had once fueled his music, his very essence, was slowly being extinguished. The joy of creating, the thrill of performing was overshadowed by the pressures and constraints of his fame. The walls of Graceland, although luxurious, seemed to close in on him, echoing with the emptiness of his gilded cage. The mansion, a symbol of his success, had become a fortress of solitude. He longed for the days when he could walk down the street, a face in the crowd, unrecognized and free. The simple pleasure of anonymity was a distant memory, a freedom he yearned to reclaim. He missed the simple things, a burger at a roadside diner, a conversation with a stranger, the thrill of the open road stretching before him. These were the moments that grounded him, that reminded him of who he was before the fame. The memories of those carefree days, before the screaming fans and the relentless spotlight haunted him. They were a bittersweet reminder of a simpler time, a time when his life was his own. They were a constant reminder of the life he had lost, a life he desperately wanted to recapture, if only for a night. The longing for those lost moments was a quiet ache, a whisper of what could have been, had fame not taken its toll. The highway stretched before him, an asphalt ribbon beckoning him toward freedom. The Cadillac hummed beneath him, its powerful engine a comforting rumble in the stillness of the night. With each passing mile, Elvis felt the weight on his shoulders lighten. The tension that had been a constant companion for so long began to ease, replaced by a sense of exhilaration he hadn't felt in years. The world outside the car window flew by in a blur of darkness and light. Occasional neon signs advertising roadside motels and diners punctuated the black expanse, each one a beacon of possibility. The night air, no longer heavy with the stifling atmosphere of confinement, flowed through the open windows, carrying with it the scent of pine needles and damp earth. It was the scent of freedom, of anonymity, and Elvis breathed it in deeply, letting it fill his lungs and chase away the staleness of his gilded cage. He had no destination in mind, no itinerary, no schedule to keep. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Elvis was answerable only to himself. Hours later, hunger gnawing at his stomach, Elvis spotted a beacon of warmth and light in the distance. The night had been long and the road seemed endless, but the sight of that glowing sign brought a sense of relief. Mel's Diner, the neon sign proclaimed in bright, flickering letters. It stood out like a lighthouse in the dark, guiding weary travelers to a place of comfort and respite. It was the kind of place Elvis had only dreamed of visiting in recent years. A no-frills, all-American diner untouched by the glitz and glamour of his own world. The simplicity of it all was a stark contrast to the opulence he was accustomed to, and it was exactly what he needed. He pulled the Cadillac into the near-empty parking lot and stepped out, stretching his legs and taking a deep breath of the cool night air. The stars above twinkled brightly, unpolluted by city lights, and for a moment he felt a connection to the world around him. Inside, the aroma of coffee and sizzling bacon filled the air. It was a scent that evoked memories of simpler times, of mornings spent in small-town diners during his early days on the road. A friendly waitress, her name tag identifying her as Betty, greeted him with a warm smile. Her demeanor was welcoming, and it felt like she genuinely cared about the patrons who walked through the door. "Just you tonight, hun?" she asked, leading him to a booth by the window. The booth offered a perfect view of the diner, allowing him to take in the scene around him. "Just me," Elvis replied, returning her smile. It was a rare moment of solitude, and he intended to savor every second of it. He felt a strange sense of peace settle over him, a feeling he hadn't realized he'd been missing. The hustle and bustle of his life had left little room for such quiet moments. He ordered a cheeseburger and fries, savoring the simple pleasure of a meal eaten in anonymity. The food was nothing fancy, but it was hearty and satisfying, a reminder of the comforts of home. As he ate, he observed the other late-night patrons, a truck driver hunched over a cup of coffee, his face weary from hours on the road, yet finding solace in the familiar surroundings of the diner. A young couple sharing a plate of fries, their laughter and whispered conversations a testament to the simple joys of companionship. A group of friends laughing uproariously in the corner booth. Their camaraderie was infectious, and for a moment, Elvis found himself smiling along with them. They were just ordinary people, living ordinary lives. And for a few precious moments, Elvis envied them. In their simplicity, he found a beauty that was often missing from his own life. It was a taste of freedom, a reminder of what truly mattered.